All righty. Welcome to this session from i3 Business Solutions on the Darkweb, ransomware industry, and how to protect your company. My name's Mike Ritzema with i3 Business Solutions. I'm joined by Jay Ryerse, who I'll introduce a little further in a moment. Just want to say that we're small business owners. I'm a small business owner. We're talking to primarily small and medium business owners in this call. And I understand that technology and cybersecurity, we're interested in business results. I want to figure out how to get stuff done at my business. So we'll try and keep it in that context of business results and how might cybersecurity and the risk impact that. So who is Jay Ryerse? Well, he's the Vice President of Global Security Sales for ConnectWise. And he was 2021 and 2022 CRN Channel Chief designated by that organization. He's trained over 10,000 people in IT Nation Certified and other cybersecurity courses online and around the world. He's an international speaker on cybersecurity and its impact on small to medium business, author of Technology 101 for Small Business. But I think most importantly, Jay, is you used to own a business like ours, a technology business. You're a former small business owner, so you know what it's like to run a small business. I'll turn it over to you, Jay.
I do. Thanks, Mike, and thanks for everybody for listening in today. As Mike mentioned, yes, I'm a former owner of several small businesses, not just one. I've actually been through this routine several times and have successfully transitioned several of them to go upstream, which is how I got to ConnectWise. We had started a cybersecurity company back in 2016, and we were acquired quickly, as a lot of cybersecurity companies are, and they were acquired, and here I am today, working with our partners like Mike to have the right conversation around cybersecurity. So I'm hoping that everybody can see my slides. So based on that, then let's go ahead and get started. One of the things that I find interesting when I talk to business owners is that they always say, well, Jay, I've got it covered. We're okay on cybersecurity. It's kind of like saying that they live in a really nice neighborhood. There's no traffic, there's no noise pollution, no dogs barking, the kids play in the streets, come home when the street lights come on. And that's great, except that that's not usually really the case, right? I mean, we'd like to believe that is how it works and how it functions. And yet we're still seeing where, cyber attacks are costing, small businesses, ones like yours, hundreds of thousands, and as your business gets larger, potentially millions of dollars. As an example, the average ransom payment today is typically 10% of a business's revenue, annual revenue. So think about that. I don't know who's in the audience today, where you are, but think about what your annual revenue is, and the fact that they can calculate what your revenue is in approximate numbers is because the attackers, quite often are in the network. Now, I don't agree with this particular article that says it puts many out of business. It really hasn't been the case of what we've seen over the last several years, but it could, right? And let's talk about what it looks like, when a cyber attack occurs, because this is the part that I don't think business owners are really talking about. We don't go out with our friends for a picnic or barbecue on a weekend and say, hey, we got hit by a ransomware attack this week. How about you? And so understanding, what happens is important. And so I just grabbed one of the samples that we see on a weekly basis. This one came in from a partner. Conti is an attack group. And these next three slides are the Word document that was left on the desktop of one of the machines that had been encrypted from the ransomware attack. So usually their grammar is not perfect, although it's getting better. Like when I read this one, this is Conti 18. I wonder if they have a B, a C, and a D team, right? But at the end of the day, as you already know, we've infiltrated your networks, researched them, and found critical vulnerabilities which enabled us to access and exfiltrate your inner documentation and encrypt your file servers, SQL servers, subdomains, and local networks. Due to poor security of your networks, we have downloaded your critical information with a total volume of more than 50 gigabytes. That's a lot of data. It's a lot of Word documents, thousands of them potentially. This information includes personal data of your customers, your employees, and vendors, as well as your legal, financial, HR, IT, audit, and compliance directories, among other files. We obtain personal documents, phone numbers, contact information, consolidated financial statements, payroll, and banking statements. So I can assure you that when this happens, your heart sinks. Like, this is not a good day. And it's really a good example of when bad things happen to good people, because none of us think we're going to be victims. So the message goes on. Fortunately, Conti is here to prevent any further damages. First, we can provide you with IT support by offering a decryption tool, as well as a security report that will address the initial issues with your network security that resulted in this situation. Anybody hearing blackmail and extortion coming out? Because I'm certainly starting to hear that. Secondly, we offer you damage prevention services. At this point, all of your files are about to get public on our blog and will be available for anyone, including darknet criminals who are eager to abuse your information for their own evil purposes, like social engineering attacks against your customers and vendors, spamming, and other bad actions. Your customers, vendors, employees, and investors, lists are all available from your inner documentation, will also be notified by us about the breach. This way, they can know what to do since their private data is getting public. It goes without saying that this privacy violation will lead to a long-term legal, regulatory, financial, and reputational damages, including lost contracts and potentially, I add the word potentially, class action lawsuits from those whose info was exposed. But wait, there's more. Oh, seriously. However, as part of our deal, we offer solutions to prevent this from happening. We will first give you a file tree to demonstrate which files we downloaded from your network. Then you can choose certain file names from this listing, and we will provide you with these files to prove that we have them. Then we transfer all the files we have back to you and delete them from all our hostings and servers, making sure that you are the only one who have access to them. This way, all the above mentioned risks will be prevented. The price for all our services is $800,000 US. That tells me that this business is probably in the ballpark of $8 million a year in annual term. As we've received this question before, we would like to make a preemptive clarification. There is no way that we will not fulfill our promises after you pay. I mean, come on, honor amongst thieves, right? To put it simply, the chances that hell will freeze are higher than us misleading our customers. We are the most elite group in this market, and our reputation is the absolute foundation of our business. They care about their reputation? Really? And they will never breach their contract obligations. Please let them know further if you have questions. So when these kinds of things happen, and they happen far more frequently than you realize, matter of fact, 64% of most small businesses will fall victim to a cyber attack in the next 3 years. It really starts to look like this. You had this really nice neighborhood, and then you realize that there are people out there to take advantage of you and trying to break your systems. So when I think about this, here's a few things that you should know about. And we'll start with the dark web, right? Understand what the dark web is, where it fits, how they conduct business. Because there's this entire underworld going on that literally transacts billions of dollars a day that most of us don't even know happens. Talk more about that in a minute, because at the same time, I'd like to tell you that we're the security people. We're going to come, solve the world's problems, tell everybody to stop and don't let them in. But we're dealing with users, meaning your staff. Your staff is probably the ones most likely to put your business at risk. They're always looking for a way around controls, right? And you're probably laughing right now. You're looking at this saying, that's exactly my team. Matter of fact, it might be some of you. It could be me at times, right? I'm always looking for ways to work around the systems, but we've got to understand that we need to put an end to that, because the dark web itself is real, and the activity that happens there is pretty important. So let's kind of run through and help you get a visualization of what the dark web is. It's really an expansion of the internet. It's just part of the internet that you never actually see. If you remember, if you're older like I am, you remember the term the interwebs. Well, the interwebs covers kind of 3 areas, right? There's the public web, the surface web that you see day in, day out. There's the deep web, which is your networks, right? What the data you're trying to protect. Then there's a dark web down below. So let me run through them again real quick. The surface web or public web makes up about 4, maybe 5% of the total internet. This is where you're running Google searches, you're checking your bank information, you're trading stocks, you're reading the news, you're playing fantasy sports, you're checking, for recipes for dinner tonight. You're on social media, you're on any of the social media platforms. Without naming names, you guys know who they are. But this is the surface web. This is where everybody conducts most of our business. And you probably, believe it or not, have put your firewall at the surface web capability so that your workers can connect through your firewall into your business to work remotely. Now, what's behind your firewall is what we call the deep web. This is all the important data, right? The information that the thieves really want. It's your company records, your financial records, and all those things that Conti Group listed on those slides before, the information that you want to protect. At your bank, it's where they're responsible for protecting your financial information. Your doctor's office is trying to protect your healthcare information, and the list goes on and on. So that's the deep web. Down under it is what we call the dark web. Typically, you'll access it through a system called Tor, and you'll need specialized tools to get there. So let me tell you right up front, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to tell you that this does exist, but it's not like one of your employees can point and click on an email, like a phishing email, and all of a sudden they're out surfing the dark web. It doesn't work that way. There are specialized tools that makes everybody there anonymous, and that's what allows them to conduct business. If you've ever heard about Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of those types of monetary exchanges, that all transpires on the dark web, so that you can literally move money around from good people to bad people to other bad people, literally, trafficking money, and there's no way to really track that because it's just account numbers. There's no central source of who owns those accounts. Now, if there was, then law enforcement would be able to help stop this from happening, but this really hasn't occurred. So as an example, the dark web, and the reason I pointed out your teams, right, your staff that might be clicking on emails or doing things they shouldn't be doing, is because when they get phished, what's really happening behind the scenes is the thieves are taking their usernames and passwords, they're putting them up for sale on the dark web, and other thieves are literally using them, trying to break into your public data, your social media, your company's bank accounts, your company's firewall. They're trying to get into your network. And so many times we find the ultimate culprit was a phishing email or some sort of attack. A user wasn't really paying attention, clicked on a link on a website, gave up their credentials, and now it's truly a race against time. And when I say a race against time, believe it or not, once those credentials go for sale on the dark web, there's about a 19-minute window where once the attackers are in your network, they can take over and have a foothold into what goes on. So, what do we look at? I'd like to call myself a white hat hacker. I'm on the good team. We work with businesses all the time to understand what's out there and what kind of data exists. And so I'm going to give you a really simple example here. The one that probably causes the most harm to your business are just your company emails, right? And then the passwords. On this example, we encrypted them so that we didn't put out their passwords. And obviously, believe it or not, these were a real pull from a company called example.org. But it does happen, and you can start to see where users repurpose and reuse the same passwords over and over again. It really starts to create issues where thieves can go out and look at those. And for example, and I'm sure nobody here, when it's time for a password update, we add an exclamation point to the end. Right, Mike, that would never happen, would it?
No, it wouldn't happen. And Jay, this is interesting because we ran a dark web report for a prospective customer in the state of Michigan. And when we delivered it to basically the president of the organization, he said, he looked at the password and said, that is the password that the owner requires us to use for all our systems. We've been trying to tell him we should change passwords, but he only wants to remember one password. They took that report back, and we started working with them to fix that situation.
Yeah, what's interesting, what happens quite a bit, Mike, and you see this, I'm sure, is that users are smart, right? They'll look for ways around things. So they'll append a month to the end, like JAN for January, or they'll put in Jan 22, and then they know the next time they'll make it February 22. So they look for ways to simplify it, but the first batch of characters are always the same, right? Or maybe the back half the same. Right? People get a little creative, but not much. So when this information is for sale on the dark web, they can now go out and look for ways to log in and start to infiltrate your system. And you see things like phishing emails that really come to you as a LinkedIn post, as an example, right? So I compromised, your business owner's LinkedIn account, and I sent a note from them from LinkedIn to you, getting you to click on a link to something that's truly malicious, but it came from the business owner, and so it looks like it's real. These things happen, and so try to think about what the value is. And look, I don't know that these are the things that we should be talking about, but it's just data that's out there. So right now, about $180 per record is the going rate, for detailed information on a victim. The typical cost of a breach for SMBs with fewer than 500 employees, Ponemon Institute and IBM are saying it's 2.98 million. I don't think it's that high. I think it's actually a little lower than that. But again, how do you define SMB, right? There are 500 employee businesses that are worth, 50, 70, $100 million. So that this might be pennies, but for others, it might not be the case. So just use that initial number I gave you, that $200,000, maybe $300,000. It's a problem for all of us. And really, it's the financial impact of cybercrime that's really impacting what we're doing. When you start studying what's happening in this space, and again, you're here because you want to learn, I'm sure. The FBI does reports on cybercrime. We're actually waiting for the next report to come out, but we expect it to be just like the years before. In 2020, business email compromise, where somebody actually compromises somebody's email account and uses it to launch other attacks against their vendors and their suppliers, is the most common, or getting people to wire money inappropriately is the other one that we see. Nearly half of all cybercrime losses are related to that. And the average loss, $94,000 per complaint. I mentioned, ransomware attacks. Right now, and again, these numbers are a little bit dated. 2020, it was 14 seconds. 2021, it ended up being 13 seconds. Who cares? I could be half wrong. Maybe it's 30 seconds. That's still too many. And there's not a whole lot that we can do to help, defend these. So we have to lean on education, right? Make sure that you understand where you fit into this conversation. And if you're listening in, and whether you're a business owner, or maybe you head up the technology team, or maybe you were tasked with just trying to figure this stuff out, you've got to understand what we call the data responsibility pie. This really defines who owns what part of protecting your data. Now, as a business owner or a leader in your business, we call you the data owner. Okay, it comes right out of the cybersecurity training manuals and the certifications that we have, but the data owner owns the liability and establishes the budget for protecting that data. So I know that data owners, business owners, want to say, well, it's the IT team. But no, ultimately, you're the one that's going to get sued in the event of an incident. You're the one who will have to defend it, in courts. The information technology team, these are the ones that are actually implementing what the data owner provided budget for. So they don't get to go out and just automatically deploy stuff, right? Your IT person, I3 can't come in and just start deploying all kinds of stuff without your knowledge and your approval. So you have to work together on this. And I think the part that we've been missing in the conversations is what we call the information security team. For most small businesses, it's exactly how it was when I was running my business. I had to work with my other vendors and providers together to help reduce my risk. So many times we see the data owner says, hey, I want to add a camera system. They drop a camera system in and they don't tell the information team because somebody else was putting it in. And then that device, they opened up some ports on the firewall, and that device becomes the entry point for an attack. Data owner didn't know what the risk was, so how could they possibly control it? IT didn't know that new devices were coming in, and there was no plan for information security. So the information security team will actually look at what's going on in your space, look at where your data is housed, where it is and why it's there, make sure it's backed up properly, make sure you've got 2FA and EDR and SIM and an incident response plan put in place to really help you assess and ultimately make good decisions as the data owner. Quite often in small businesses, it's really a combination of the data owner and the information technology team just working together with a cybersecurity focus. One of the places that we see people start is a very simple document. It's actually a list of the 15 most common ways to protect your business from a cyber attack. This is what most businesses are putting in place. I didn't talk about the technologies themselves, like, hey, go buy something from Microsoft and this from that company, this from that company. We just gave you an idea of what the technologies are. And then sitting down with your IT team, they can tell you what's included and what's not. When you understand what's not, then you can ask well, what are these things and how do they apply? And how important are they? Like, when should we look at deploying these things? Because if every business is doing the same things, the last businesses to deploy those tools are like the slowest person in the woods being chased by a bear, right? They're going to fall victim the easiest, and you don't want to be that company. I'm not saying you've got to buy the most advanced, latest, greatest, defend, the White House technology, but you've got to apply some common sense to it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Before you apply that common sense, I mentioned it before, you need to do a security assessment. You need to understand exactly what's out there, what's important to you, what risk there is to that data, and then you can decide what to implement. See, the problem with cybersecurity is that everybody wants you to buy it, but no one ever defines what it means for your business. It's really important that you work with your partners in technology to understand what matters and what doesn't, because of the 6, 7 boxes I circled here, some of these might not even apply to you. I just don't know. And I don't want you to spend money, until it doesn't make any sense. So I know that this is kind of tough to do on a webinar, but I'm gonna try it anyway. So I want to talk to you about why an assessment matters and how to think about it differently than you have in the past. When I think about assessments, I think about protecting my home. Like, step away from the business for a moment. And Mike, if you want to role play with me here a little bit, you can play the role of one of your clients if you'd like. So Mike, you've got a home where you live, right?
Yes.
And what's in your home that's worth protecting?
Well, certainly my family.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, certainly the family, and then, stuff that I own, from TVs to jewelry to pictures, memories, etc.
Yeah, I like how you called it stuff, but you knew that stuff is kind of broad, right? You knew it was going to get more specific. So electronics, jewelry, cash under the mattress, important documents, financial records, passports, birth certificates, family collectibles, memorabilia, all those things are important to us. When I ask this question in an on-site environment, I don't ever hear, well, my couch is really important to me, right? It is, but if insurance buys you a new couch, it's fine. And the reality is, the only place where I really kind of want to go deeper is electronics. So Mike, what's more important to you, your TV or your laptop?
Laptop.
Why?
Well, it has pictures, documents, information that I grind to a halt without the laptop or the phone or access to the valuable information.
Yeah, and if the data's in the cloud, it might be okay, but most of us still keep documents on our local machines and devices. And I agree. If I get a new TV, especially if it was pre-Super Bowl, it would have been awesome, right? I could watch on the bigger TV with more color depth, and I don't know if I could see it all, but it'd be really cool. But my laptop, my mobile phone, my iPad type of devices, they are mission critical for me in the work that we do. So in your business, we'll look at it the same way. We're going to figure out what assets are most important, because not all data is created equal. What I mean by that is, 5-year-old tax records are not as important as this week's payroll numbers. And so understanding where those assets reside and how you're going to protect them will become very, very important. So Mike, we talked about your house here a moment ago. How do you protect your house?
We have a lot. I have a lot of locks on the doors, and we have security cameras.
Yeah, these are the most common things we hear, right? Alarm systems, dogs, fences, maybe a baseball bat or other weapon of choice. We hope the police will be there. We buy insurance. Maybe you've got one of those Ring doorbell cameras. I mean, who knows what? We've all got different things we do, but these are the most common things that we do to protect our house. And there's some logic behind this. This first column are things that we do to actively protect the house, to be proactive. And yet people still break in, just like putting a firewall and a few things on your network to be more secure. People are still going to try to break in. So we need tools to actually detect an intruder. Now, detection to me as a cybersecurity guy is very, very important. The average intruder is in a business network somewhere around 6 months' time before they've been identified and before they launch their attack. A lot of harm can come to your business just based on how long they're in your environment. So if I can detect them at minute 30 versus day 30, the risk to my business is very different. So I want detection mechanisms, just like the alarm or the motion sensor type of devices for your home. Once I've detected, then we can respond, right? We can take positive action to help, defend your home, or in this case, your business. So we're going to identify what's most important, look at how you protect, detect, respond, and ultimately could recover, which is, I really would like to change that word from recover to survivability. I want to be able to survive a cyber attack. So all these things become important. And once you've looked at it from this perspective, you'll really understand what the right cybersecurity is. And that's why on that previous slide, I said, assess first, get an understanding of what's at risk in your business and what would cause you the most harm, and then look at what controls are in place to actually defend it. So Mike, that's my perspective on the world today. I know that i3 has done a bunch of really neat things, and you guys have kind of put out some requirements for your clients. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so a couple things here. Number one, that ransomware note that you posted there is interesting, and I say that overseas in these countries over there are offices just like your office and my office with 30 to 100 people in it, and they're buying passwords. They're attempting to break into firewalls in America where the money is, and they're running a business over there. And when they breach or they collect a ransom, they ring the bell. And they celebrate. And then, like you said, they're providing an IT support service. They offer damage prevention service. They actually see it as a service that, now you're going to pay us some money, and then you're going to protect your business better. We did a service to you, and they want to protect their reputation. They have integrity. It's fascinating, and I think it's important to understand that about the dark web, about ransomware, about the bad actors, is they're over there running a business, and they look at it as a service, trying to help businesses in America better protect themselves. Just pay us a fee, and then you'll understand. So yeah, business owners, small business owners, I think number one is know your risk. And so you are the data owner, you are the risk owner, and your IT manager or your IT company is the data steward. They are the stewards of the risk. And so it's important that all of us understand the risk we're dealing with. And then mandates, you mentioned some of them, Jay, and this is your list, and it parallels our list, and that is multi-factor authentication, number one. And we're banging that drum, especially on Office 365. We're saying, get it done, please get it done. And not just on, we can do half the company. It's every single login to Office 365 or your email system needs multi-factor authentication, and we're extending that to other systems and saying especially cloud-facing systems need multi-factor authentication everywhere you can implement it. Secondly is EDR, endpoint detection and response, exactly what you described relative to the house, and that is, it's one thing to have a lock on the door, it's one thing to have a firewall, but can you detect when somebody broke in the house? And can you immediately respond when somebody breaks into the house or into your business? That's beyond antivirus. That's endpoint detection and response. Security incident event management. If somebody breaches the network, are we watching the whole network and do we know they're in there? The incident response plan is interesting. In my work with you, Jay, and the team, Wayne, and so on, this has become more important to us, and we do have an incident response plan at i3, and we can help small business owners put it in place. It's like a disaster recovery plan. It's like a business continuity plan, but it's if we're breached, what do we do? It's that plan. And then maybe the most important thing we can do for our business from a cybersecurity protection standpoint is make sure our stuff's backed up and it's offline. Because we know the first thing the bad actors do when they're sitting in there for 6 months is they go for the backup. And if they can wipe out the backup, then they're in business because you're in jail and you have to write the check. So I think that's a wrap from my perspective on mandates. I think any comments, Jay, as we go to the next slide?
It's interesting. Back in May of last year, the president put out an executive order on cybersecurity and called out this exact list for businesses doing business with the government and government entities to help secure their space. And the mandate now has teeth in that they're being required to do it here in the next quarter and have it completed. Yeah, it's no different, and it's coming our way as business owners. We're seeing it from the insurance companies are asking for these things, where we're seeing compliance requirements aligned to these things. So this is not some cutting edge, bleeding edge technology. This is like the essentials of what you should have for your business. So I think it's a great list.
Absolutely. So next step, our recommendation to you is a cybersecurity risk assessment. Jay mentioned it earlier. The IT department implements technology, puts in fundamental protections, but then a cybersecurity risk goes a second step. And in one of the frameworks, the CIS version 8 framework, 172 items on the list. It's more extensive than a firewall and a backup system. So we can help you with that, a cybersecurity risk assessments. You're welcome to call me, email me with questions, and we'll be live again next month, March 23, with Cohen Barnes, CEO of Sundog IT. He's the mayor of DeKalb, Illinois. He's also a friend and peer in the industry I've worked with for a number of years. Sign up for that webinar.
Yeah, he's awesome. So again, recommendation. Cohen's been involved working in this space for quite a while as well. He brings a really interesting perspective because of his role, not only as a business owner, but also as a mayor of a town in Illinois. So I look forward to listening to that one.
Very good. That's a wrap. Jay, thanks for your time, and go ye therefore and secure your home and your organization.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.